Learn English through Stories D27 PDF. Adapted and modified by Kulwant Singh Sandhu. Contents: 1. A wonderful party. 2. Grammar page. 1. A wonderful party. By Enid Blyton. Now one day, Mr. Pink Whistle met such a nice pair of children that he really had to stop and talk to them. The girl had a bright, smiling face, and the boy looked so strong and had such twinkling eyes that Mr. Pink Whistle couldn't help smiling when he saw him. "Hello, hello there," said Mr. Pink Whistle, looking at the two children. "Are you twins? You look exactly alike." "Yes, we're twins," said the boy. "We were born on the same day. Molly will be 8 on Thursday, and so shall I." "Ha, a birthday," said Mr. Pink Whistle, who loved presents and surprises. "But I suppose you will be having a party?" "Oh, of course," said Molly. "Michael has chosen 6 boys and I have chosen 6 girls, so it will be a lovely big party, and do you know what Mike and I are going to have? A bran tub, you see. Grandpa has given us 5 shillings each for our birthday, and we thought it would be a lovely idea to spend it on presents for our guests." "A bran tub. We shall put them in the bran tub, and every one will draw one out," said Michael, doing a little dance of joy on the pavement. "We're going to buy them now." "Dear me, what nice children to think of giving other people presents on their birthday," thought Mr. Pink Whistle, who loved kind and generous people. "Mother is making a big birthday cake with both our names on it," said Molly. "It's going to have pink icing. She saved up the sugar icing especially for us. And she is making pink, yellow, and red jellies and 2 big chocolate blancmanges. Chocolate blancmanges. And we are going to play blind man's buff and nuts in May, and postman's knock, and all kinds of games," said Peter. "And there are 6 boxes of crackers. What do you think of that? Won't everyone enjoy themselves?" Mr. Pink Whistle walked along with the 2 happy children and watched them buy 12 lovely presents for their little friends. There was 2 pence over, and what do you think the children did with it? "Let's buy 2 pennyworth of those pretty pink sweets and give them to this kind little man," whispered Molly. "I do like him." So to Mr. Pink Whistle's great surprise, he was given a bag of bright pink sweets by Molly and Mike. "Dear me," he said. "Dear me. How very sweet and kind of you. Just the sweets I like, too. Thank you very, very much indeed. I do hope you have a wonderful party on Thursday." Mr. Pink Whistle whispered magic words to himself when he went out of the shop and disappeared. He wanted to follow the twins home and find out where they lived. He meant to give them a birthday present each. So he trotted behind them, although they didn't know it, and saw the house they lived in. He wrote down the name of it in his notebook. For Treehouse. When Thursday came, Mr. Pink Whistle bought 2 merry birthday cards, a big farmyard for Michael with all kinds of little animals in it, and a doll's house for Molly, full of the tiniest furniture. Then he set off to Fir Tree House, hoping that the children would be in, so that he could wish them many happy returns of the day. Their mother came to the door. Mr. Pink Whistle raised his hat politely and asked to see Molly and Michael. "Well, have you had whooping cough?" asked Mrs. Brown. "Or whooping cough, what do you mean exactly?" said Mr. Pink Whistle, very puzzled. "You see, both the children have got whooping cough now," said Mrs. Brown. "The doctor came this morning and said they had caught it. It's such a pity, because it's their birthday, and they are so disappointed." "Can't they have their party then?" asked Mr. Pink Whistle. "Oh no," said Mrs. Brown. "It might give other children their cough. They mustn't have others here for a long time. And you know, they'd got such nice presents for their guests, and I had made a lovely cake and jellies and things. I am really as much disappointed and sad as Molly and Mike are." "Are they in bed?" said Mr. Pink Whistle. No, said Mrs. Brown. They are not ill, but they just have a nasty cough. They are in the nursery. If you've had whooping cough, you can go in and see them. Oh, I've had whooping cough all right, said Mr. Pink Whistle. I had it when I was 5. Yes. I'll go and see the children, please. So up into the big nursery he went. And, dear me, what sad children he found. Molly wasn't smiling and Mike had quite lost his twinkle. Hello, hello, said Pink Whistle, bustling in. Many happy returns of the day, my word. I'm sorry you've got whooping cough. It's so dreadfully horrid of it to have happened on our birthday, said Molly, trying not to cry. Why couldn't it have happened tomorrow? We've had our presents and our cards. But we can't have our friends here and let them share our cake and goodies and give them the lovely presents we bought. It doesn't seem fair, does it? It doesn't, and it isn't, said Mr. Pink Whistle sadly. Can't you really have any of your friends to tea? No. Because you see, not one of them has had whooping cough, said Mike. But perhaps you would like to come, if you had it. Oh, I should. I certainly should, said Mr. Pink Whistle, beaming. And do you know, I believe I could bring some guests who don't mind a scrap about whooping cough. Friends of my own, you know, very jolly ones. Would you like that? Then you could have a party after all. Ooh, that would be fine, said the twins, smiling in delight. Will you talk to Mother about it? So downstairs went Mr. Pink Whistle, leaving the 2 big parcels he had bought for Molly and Mike to undo. He told the children's mother what he had said to the children, and she nodded her head. I'm sure that the friends of a kind little man like you would be nice to have, she said. Bring 12 if you can, because I've got enough food for that number. I'll see you again at 4 o'clock, I hope. Off scurried Mr. Pink Whistle, back to his own little village. He burst in at his own tiny cottage, much to the surprise of Sooty, his big black cat. Sooty, Sooty, cried Mr. Pink Whistle. We've got to find 12 people who have had whooping cough or don't mind about it by 4 o'clock this afternoon. Will you help me? Well, can I be one? Asked Sooty at once. I don't mind about whooping cough at all. Would they mind a cat coming? No. I think they'd be pleased, said Mr. Pink Whistle. I'll buy you a new blue party bow now, come on. We must find some more people. What about little Mrs. Tickle? She's sweet, and dear Mr. Tiddlywinks. I'm sure the twins would love him and his hat edged with tiddlywinks. Come on, Sooty. So off went the 2 to find more guests for the party. What a surprise for Molly and Mike when they all arrived. Now, when 4 o'clock came, you should have seen the 12 people that went trooping up the garden path of the children's house. First, there was Mr. Pink Whistle himself, of course, beaming all over his plump face, his green eyes shining. Behind him came Sooty, the cat, with a new blue party bow tied very beautifully. Then came Mrs. Tickle, a darling little person with such tiny feet that when she walked it seemed almost as if she was running by clockwork. There was Mr. Tiddlywinks, a tall, thin man whose hat was sewn with red, green, blue, and yellow tiddlywink counters that jingled and clattered as he walked. That was 4. The 5th person was the pixie Tiptoe, who had tucked her wings inside her cloak so that no one in the street should see them. The 6th and 7th guests were 2 big sandy rabbits, looking rather shy but very pleased, each with a pink bow round his neck. The 8th guest was a brownie whose beard was so long that he tied it round his waist when he walked, in case he tripped over it. The 9th and 10th were Mr. and Mrs. Roundy, who were just like their name. And the 11th and 12th were 2 goblin children, all dressed up in their best. They were not very pretty, for their noses turned up, and they had such big ears. But they were so smiley that no one could help liking them. Mrs. Brown was most astonished to see such a queer company, especially the cat and the rabbits, but she was too polite to say anything. She welcomed them all and helped the goblin children off with their coats. Well, when Molly and Michael saw their strange guests trooping into the nursery, they were most excited and pleased. Gracious! What a marvelous party it would be, with rabbits and a cat and goblin children and a pixie and the rest. Everyone had a present to give to Molly and Michael, of course, though the rabbits only brought a bunch of early primroses each, which they thought were not very good presents. But the twins simply loved the pretty pale yellow flowers, and Molly put them into a little blue bowl at once, in the very middle of the birthday table. You should have seen some of the presents that the guests gave to the children. Mr. and Mrs. Roundy gave them a dear little mug each, and as soon as it was lifted up to drink from, each mug played a tune. Molly's played Sing a Song of Sixpence, and Mike's played Humpty Dumpty. I shall drink all day long now, said Mike. I think this mug must be magic. Mr. Tiddlywinks gave them a set of beautiful tiddlywinks each, of course, and Sooty, the cat, gave them a black china cat exactly like himself. And it meowed when its tail was pulled. So you can guess that it meowed all the afternoon, because somebody or other was always pulling its tail. It really was great fun. The tea was gorgeous, because Mrs. Tickle had brought along a big tin of her best homemade biscuits, and as they were all made in the shape of toys with jam right in the middle, they were most exciting. Mike had a biscuit just like an engine, and when he squeezed it, the jam came out of the funnel. Everyone thought it was wonderful. Then they had the bran tub. And how all the guests loved their presents. Sooty got a clockwork mouse, and when Mike wound up instead of going, Sooty was quite mad with delight, and chased the mouse under chairs and tables till Mrs. Brown felt quite giddy from watching him. I think this is the finest party anyone ever had, said Molly happily. Fancy finding 12 guests who don't mind about whooping cough. I am sorry we couldn't have our proper friends. But I can't help thinking this is a more exciting party with this sort of guests, Mike. Mr. Pink Whistle was asked to do a little magic, because the twins knew now that he was half magic. So he was most obliging, and kept appearing and disappearing in a most surprising way. Molly begged him to whisper the magic words in her ear, so that she could make herself disappear too. But she didn't get them quite right, and to everyone's great astonishment only her legs disappeared. And there was Molly running about the room without any legs that could be seen. Mrs. Roundy laughed till she cried. Then they had the crackers. Sooty and the rabbits had never seen crackers before, and when the first one went off bang, they were dreadfully frightened. Sooty jumped up the chimney at once, and the two rabbits rushed under the sofa. When Sooty came down at last, he was just as sooty as his name, and Mrs. Brown had to hold him under the tap and scrub him clean. Then he sat in front of the fire to be dry, whilst the two rabbits crept out from under the sofa and wondered if they dared to pull a cracker themselves. Well, let's, said the bigger rabbit. There are caps inside, Whiskers dear. And you know I've always wanted some sort of hat to wear. So they pulled a cracker, and then another, and out came a blue bonnet for Whiskers and a golden crown for Floppy. Goodness, they were pleased. Then they played Tiddlywinks. And you should have seen the way Mr. Tiddlywinks played. He was simply marvelous. He could not only flip counters into the cup, but he could flip just anything. You are clever, said Mike. I wish I could play Tiddlywinks like that. Then Mr. Pink Whistle looked at his watch. Dear me, he said. We must all go. We have to catch the bus. Goodbye, Molly dear. Goodbye, Mike. We've had a wonderful party, and we thank you very much for such a good time. Thank you for bringing such a lovely lot of guests, said the twins, and they kissed everyone goodbye. Even Sooty, who was terribly proud of being hugged by the two children. Dear old Pink Whistle, said Molly. Isn't he a darling? He's just the kindest fellow in all the world. When things seemed too horrid for words, he came along and put everything right. I wish I was like him. Goodbye, goodbye, shouted Mike, waving to Mr. Pink Whistle, who was the last one to get into the bus. Take care of yourself, Mr. Pink Whistle, and Dio, come and see us again. Goodbye. Goodbye. 2. Grammar page.